listening to The Terrific Teacherpreneur, a podcast for teachers looking to grow a successful online business. Your host, Alex, was able to transform her Teachers Pay Teachers store from a small side hustle into a profitable full-time business. She now helps other teachers do the same. Listen along for actionable tips and helpful wisdom about business and marketing as a teacherpreneur. Here's your host, Alex.
Hello and welcome to the Terrific Teacherpreneur podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about course creation, which is one of the things you can do to diversify your TPT business. It's a really cool, exciting thing. I personally have courses as a part of my business model, and I love them. Like, it's probably one of my favorite things. My podcast and my courses for sellers, like, it just sparks a lot of joy for me, and I really, really love it. So I thought I would chat a little bit about the option of creating a course if that's something you might want to do in your business. And this particular episode was starting off with a really simple, basic stuff. The simple, question of, should you create a course? I actually had someone ask me, they said, should you create a course? And they said, what's like the why behind even doing it? And so in this episode, we're also going to sort of cover what your course topic would be. So if you do decide to make one, what would the course be about? And I'm going to give you some tips about choosing that topic and thinking about your audience and sort of making sure it's a good idea to do, like validating that topic before you dive into it, because a big mistake to be made is making a course that people don't actually want. So it's going to be really basic stuff this episode, but I'm going to do another episode where I dive more into the actual course creation side of things too. But yeah, if you're just kind of curious, maybe have a little listen to this episode to see whether courses might be for you. And if you've been kind of toying with the idea, I'm hoping the tips about picking the topic really help as well. So let's get started. Okay, so the first question is, should you create a course? If you're in your first year of selling on TPT, like you're really, really new, this is a definite no. You don't want to be taking on this kind of big giant thing really early on in your journey. Focus on your store. But I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're probably someone that's been selling a little bit longer, hopefully. And so I think, yes, you should create a course if you are somewhat established on TPT. You've kind of figured out a little bit about what you're doing there, but you want to diversify outside of TPT. And so you want another income stream. Perhaps it's that kind of, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket kind of mentality. Maybe you're sort of fearful, and understandably so, of relying purely on one marketplace for your entire income, like paying your mortgage, like everything reliant on that could be kind of scary. And it's really cool if you can create a business that moves a little bit beyond TPT and has something that's your own, something that isn't reliant on someone else. And so should something happen to TPT one day, say literally the website shuts down, let's hope it doesn't, try not to scare you here, but say something happened to it, but you were one of those people that had this big thriving email list, your own website, you have your own course or membership, you've got a big established social media account, like you've got all this stuff kind of going on outside of TPT, you'd be freaking out, but not in quite the same way as everyone else, because you'd be like, well, I've still got some way to access people. I've still got a way to access buyers. I've still got my own way of making money. I've moved beyond that and I have something that's mine and it's very secure. It's a very cool thing. So yes, if you want to diversify, it's a great thing. Or if you just want to increase your revenue, because having another revenue stream, like simply getting more money, is always really cool. And it's like a big ticket item. It's kind of in similar vein to making like a big giant bundle on TPT. You're not making another $3 resource. This is something that you're going to earn a lot more money with. And so whether you charge $50, $100 or more, and you sell that to a decent amount of people, you could be bringing in thousands and thousands of dollars. Pretty cool. So the other thing to sort of consider is if you have an audience of some kind, and I think this is really, really important. So whether that's an established social media following, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook page, Facebook group, that kind of thing. Maybe you just have a really thriving big email list, more than just like 100 people. You really do need to have a bit of an audience, I think, in order to launch a course. If you are someone that just has a store and you don't have any of those things, it's going to be impossible for you to launch a course. So I think that's another thing that would be a big no-no, is if you have nobody to launch it to. But if you know that you can send an email, make a reel on Instagram or a story or a TikTok or something like that, or a post in a Facebook group, and there'll be people that can join it, then that's great. So you do need to have a bit of an audience. And then the final thing is you do kind of need to have a passion or a sort of niche or topic that you are an expert on, or something that you're really, really passionate about that could be turned into a course topic. And some people just don't have that. They just genuinely don't have something that they would want to make a course about, but you may already have something in mind. But anyway, this segues nicely into the whole, what should your course topic be? And this is what the rest of the episode is going to be, just really diving into the picking what the course should be about. I think it's like such an important step. I think people think that the important questions are, well, what do I record with? Like, how do I make the videos? Where do I host my course? Blah, blah, blah. But I mean, that's still important stuff, but none of it matters if you choose to create a course on the wrong topic that no one's going to ever want to buy. So like, this is the biggest hurdle. It's like the first thing you need to get right, because otherwise none of the other stuff really matters. Now, I will put a link in the show notes, by the way, to my course platform, because if that is one of the questions you have, like, where would I host this course? I'll put a link to Thinkific. That's the course platform that I use for hosting courses. But I'm going to talk a lot more about those kind of questions in the next episode. You know, where do you host it and all those sort of things. But I will just give a little shout out to it now. It's a really awesome platform and I love it. And that's where I host my courses. So the reason I'll mention it in this episode is because although the next episode's diving more into the behind the scenes of how to make a course or whatever, in this one, I am going to mention some steps you might take before you make a big course. And you will actually need a platform for that. So that's why I'm going to be talking about Thinkific a little bit in this episode. But anyway, first things first is picking your topic. And I think it has to be something that your audience really wants, but more likely really needs. And so it's actually really great to check in with your audience to actually validate your course idea, which I will talk a bit more about in a minute. But the other thing you can do is look at your competition. So that might be other people in your niche, and see what other courses are out there. It's important to understand the market that you're positioning your course into. Is this topic, has it already been kind of overdone? If you actually find that there's a bunch of other people doing the exact same thing, it's going to be a lot harder to compete with. If you can find something that hasn't been overdone, that's great. But it's also sometimes reassuring to see that other people are doing this, because then it tells you that it's a needed thing. If you can see another seller selling a course on a similar topic, you can go, oh, wow. Yeah, and they've had a lot of success with it. This is something people clearly want and need. So in some ways, it can actually be a good thing. But looking at your competition is really important for the validating part, just to know what's going on. You don't want to just be creating something without having any understanding of the market that you're competing with, basically. Anyway, so when it comes to picking the topic, these are just a few of my tips. Ask yourself what your buyer's biggest struggles are. What do they need help with? What do they need to learn? So thinking about how you can help and support them beyond providing, a $3 TPT resource. But you can look at your resources to get ideas. So you can look at your best sellers and think about why they're so popular, like what problem are they solving? Because that might lead you into a bigger picture idea of a problem that a buyer has. You want to address the real problems that your buyer faces, not just like surface level stuff. So pay attention to what people are asking for, what's selling really well in your store. Those are really, good clues for potential course topics. But you really want it to be something that's going to be irresistible to them. They're going to go, I really, really need help with this. That's basically the good thing to ask yourself. Like, are they going to need this? Like, is it going to be like a game changer, really help their life, make their life easier kind of thing? So you do want to look at niches and topics and things that are not too oversaturated, but that people in general do seem to struggle with. You want a good cohort of people that are going to struggle with that thing. You don't want to be too super niche. You really have to kind of find that sweet spot. So for example, classroom management. That's something that a lot of teachers struggle with. But that in and of itself is quite broad. That might be a bit too kind of big and niche. So you might narrow that down to classroom management for special education teachers. If that's your niche, you do special ed kind of stuff. So you're kind of bringing it down a little bit. And the reason I mentioned classroom management, that's such a great example, because we know that is something that pretty much every teacher at some point in their journey has struggled with. It's a real hard problem. So that's hitting the nail on the head of finding a problem they have. It's something that is really, really important to teachers, but it's important to not go too broad, not to go too niche, to kind of find that sweet spot. So you have to kind of sometimes look into something like that and then maybe narrow it down a little bit, or you would check out what other people are doing. Other courses that people offered around that kind of area. Is there something that I can fill a gap that hasn't been done yet? Or do I look at what they're doing and that's a good idea of what people really need? Anyway, classroom management is a really good example. I know that when I was teaching. That was one of my struggles. I remember when I was in my first year or so, like it's a lot of new teachers struggle with behavior management, classroom management, that kind of thing. And you can also look beyond your niche in terms of, maybe you teach kindergarten, and so a lot of your resources are like kindergarten resources. But you're not just thinking about what your TPT store has. You're looking at the sort of day-to-day stuff that teachers struggle with, like maybe teacher burnout and things like that. People often create courses around those kind of topics. Not always about helping the students, more sometimes just about helping the teacher themselves in various ways. But of course, it's always great if you can create a course that's going to help teachers and students. So how to teach, basically. And you could be making some kind of course that is supporting teachers with setting up math centers or teaching math or teaching writing or whatever. Like it could be something that's going to help them teach that subject area. That's always really great. Anyway, that was my little kind of ramble with a few tips. But I'm now going to break down like 3 big tips. So like these are your 3 big takeaways. Like it's kind of a bit more organized. And this is a little bit inspired by someone that I looked up to when I was creating my courses, someone called Sarah Cordiner. She's really awesome. She's created a lot of courses on how to create courses and stuff. And one of her tips that I really like is so number 1, she says, identify your expertise and passion. And so the first thing you do is you sit down, like have a brainstorming session, get out like a pen and paper or a Word document, whatever, and you have a little reflection on areas that you have both expertise in and enthusiasm. Like that's really important, she says. And I do agree with that. It's got to be something that you're passionate about, that you know about. You don't have to be like a super, super expert on it, but just simply knowing more than your audience in some way is great. But for example, I have a Pinterest course for TPT sellers, right? So I understand Pinterest. I know a lot about Pinterest. I have a lot of experience with it. But I also prefer that over, making an Instagram account for my store. It's something I'm a bit more passionate about. I think it's better because it's like more passive and doesn't require as much work. So I'm really passionate about Pinterest. So I've combined those 2 things together. And I think that's why that course has done really well, because it's something I feel like I know a lot about, but I also really love. I think that helps. And so she says that alignment really helps with your authenticity in terms of knowing what you're doing, and sustained motivation as well. Like if you don't like the course topic, if you're not passionate about it, it's going to be really hard for you to create the course, to market it and sell it, because you just don't have that love for it. So sometimes it's good to be something that you're really passionate about. So she also says you can consider your experiences. So you think about challenges you've overcome when you were a teacher, or if you are teaching, or when you were a new teacher, that kind of thing. Skills you've developed, that others might benefit from. And this is going to be the foundation of your course content. So yeah, love that. That's basically like a really good first step. Having a little think about, what do I know a lot about and what do I really love? I mean, those 2 things meet is always a great thing.
Welcome to the Growth Hack Podcast, where we ditch the fluff and get straight into the real strategies that fuel business growth. This show is all about smart, scalable, and slightly rebellious ways to build a thriving brand. Come join us.
So that's number 1. Like the first big step, I think, is your takeaway here is to sit down and brainstorm what you love and what you're good at, basically. Number 2 is you do need to understand your audience's needs. And so I highly recommend engaging with your audience. I briefly hinted at this earlier. So interacting with your target audience, these buyers, that kind of thing, through surveys, social media, or literally like conversations with people to uncover the struggles that they have, the questions they have, the desires that they have, that kind of thing. And this is going to tailor your course to being in the right topic. So maybe you send out a survey to your email list, maybe you poll people on your Instagram stories, maybe you make a poll in your Facebook group, or you just ask a question in one of those places and say like, oh, well, what's your biggest struggle as a teacher? What's your biggest struggle when teaching this subject? Like whatever, you ask the questions and find out what they are struggling with personally. And you can actually do this in person too with other colleagues or over Zoom or, kind of more one-on-one if you want to. That's always great. So ask people. Don't be afraid to ask people. I think a big mistake is thinking that you know best and you know what they need, and then you pick a course topic that actually nobody wants. It's so much better if you go into it really validating that idea, being absolutely sure that something that buyers have confirmed to you, this is what they need. Always a great thing. And I could see that, for example, I mean, I know this is not super helpful because I help sellers, but I create courses technically for teachers. It's kind of similar. But I could see in Facebook groups and on social media and stuff, people saying, I don't understand how to use Pinterest. Like I struggle so much with it. I also have, a course for email marketing, course for selling on TPT. I struggle. I don't know how to start an email list. People say, I don't know how to increase my sales on TPT. Like I found what issues people had and then picked courses that were things that I was passionate about and had interest in and checked that, that's something that definitely people struggled with. I don't personally have a course, for example, on creating a Facebook business page or an Instagram. As much as I actually quite enjoy Instagram as a user and on my seller account, I never really loved or used those things for my store. It just never really was something that was a passion for me. It never brought me a huge amount of money. So no, I'm not going to go and create a course on that thing. It has to be something that I'm good at and I have experience with and I'm passionate about. But I also felt like I see a lot more people struggling with how on earth do I start an email list? I don't understand how to use Pinterest. People are asking that a lot more. So I knew that those were things that were needed more. So that's also something that's guided me with course creation. But yeah, I use Facebook groups as a great way. Okay, and so the other thing you can do for this number 2, understanding your audience's needs, is you can analyze your existing content. So look at old blog posts, social media interactions, look at what has basically garnered the most significant interest or engagement. And this will highlight, where the demand is. So you go, oh, okay, yeah, I have this blog post. It's always done really well on this particular topic or podcast episode or YouTube episode or whatever. Or maybe you had a viral reel on TikTok or Instagram where you talked about tips that you use for behavior management in your first year of teaching and this is what I did and this is how it changed the culture of my class and blah, blah, blah. Or some kind of reward system you have and the way you've worked it out and all the success you had and that went really viral and everybody said to you, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. This is so helpful. That you got a lot of positive feedback from that and you might go, oh, this was something that was really popular. Sometimes that can be helpful too. All right, so number 3, validate that course topic. And so this is a really, really important one too, because sometimes you are passionate about something or good at something. You might even know that teachers are struggling with it, but that doesn't always mean 100% it's going to perform as well as it could. Maybe another topic will perform better. And so you can test your idea out. And so this is before you develop a full giant course, you might test the concept by offering something more low-key, like a free webinar, workshop, a few sample lessons. So I think you should start small. Maybe it's a training or a video. It could be completely free or it could be low cost or short, as in not lengthy in terms of time for people to consume, like a mini course. See whether you enjoy the process, but whether your audience loves it, whether your audience buys it, whether it's a complete flop. Okay, so for example, maybe you are the queen of science of reading, SOR stuff, structured literacy is your jam. You have this great thriving Instagram where you support people with that. So that's the big broad umbrella topic. I'm going to help people with science of reading. But you're trying to decide which area would be best, what people are struggling with. You know that you're really passionate about SOR, you're really good at it with all this sort of stuff. Be well, which area when it comes to phonological awareness and phonics and all that, which thing do people struggle with the most? And you kind of start asking your buyers, asking your audience, you get some ideas, but you don't know for sure. And then you try out creating this little freebie. It's a little free webinar, little video or something. It's great as a lead magnet for email list. You get some people on your email list for it. And then you actually kind of get feedback from it and you kind of see that nobody really watched it or it just didn't really take off. Versus maybe you make a little webinar again or video or a little mini course or a low cost offer on another topic and that goes crazy. It just almost goes viral. You can see everybody signing up for it. People loved it. They're raving about it, leaving reviews, sending you messages saying, oh my God, this was so helpful. Thank you so much. And you just kind of get a different vibe from it in terms of the success of it. And then okay, well, this topic's way, way more successful. This is definitely what people actually really, really want. Mini courses are an option. So it's the great thing about that is you're not putting all this effort into something where you don't make any money. It's not free, but it's low cost. And it can be good because it will be less effort for you. It'll be shorter. It will be less recording. You're not making loads and loads of videos. You might just do something small. But it's also less investment for that buyer. They can just kind of go, oh yeah, I could totally afford spending $10 or $50 over spending, $200 or $500, whatever. So it's having something low cost can kind of get people in the door. And that's a way for you to make money from it, to just, not go too crazy on it. So the other thing as well with validating your course topic, this is number 3, is researching the market and the demand, which I have hinted at already. So make the time at this point to investigate the existing courses in your niche, understand the competition, identify gaps in the market, and position your course uniquely. If you know that there's a couple other people that have done science of reading courses, well, then you probably don't want to be making yours just like theirs. It might be good to kind of do something that no one else has done. I really think it's just good to have some thought about what other people are doing. But the overall big takeaway here is you really want to be absolutely sure on your course topic before you make a course, and make sure it's something people really want. I think a really big mistake that course creators make, and a lot of people make this mistake, is just picking a topic that they think might be fun to do or they think people need. I basically haven't validated that course idea, and then it never sells and it's a massive flop. And it's really disheartening because you put in a lot of time, maybe even a lot of money into making it. And that's obviously really heartbreaking. And I've seen it happen. It happens a lot. And it's especially hard, I think, if you invest a lot of money in learning. So if you're one of those people that takes one of those $1,000 courses about how to make a course, whatever, you spend a crazy amount of money. I hear stories like this, and then you make a course and then it sells once or not at all, or a handful of times that you barely even covered your costs. That's really frightening. You don't want to be doing that. So that's why I think it's good to do all the things I mentioned in this episode first, so you're absolutely sure, and including doing something more low scale. I'll just summarize those 3 things really quickly. Number 1 was remember to identify your expertise and passion. Find the thing that you know a lot about, that you love. Think about what challenges you've overcome. Number 2 was understanding your audience's needs. Engage with them, ask them questions and find out what they need, but also look at your own content to see what's performed well. Number 3, validate the topic. So offer something free or low cost or small so you can kind of check whether it's needed, whether people like it, and also obviously look at the market is a really great thing to do. I hope that this has helped. That was my little guide into the whole, should you create a course? And once you do, what should it even be about? And I really hope it's helped. Like I said, I'll put a link in the show notes to Thinkific, which is a really awesome course platform. Even though at this point you haven't probably officially decided to be making a giant course yet or anything like that, these platforms are really great for hosting those things I mentioned. So the mini course, the webinar, the videos or lessons, the free or the low cost offer that you want to make. You can offer those on a course platform. So join a course platform, and there's a few others, but Thinkific's the one I use and I just really love it. You can offer it on there, and then, should it go well or whatever, you can make your big full course on there too. So I think I made, this was years ago, before I made my TPT course for sellers, I gave away a couple of free sample lessons. I made it a free mini course of one of the modules, maybe. It was a long time ago. And that was to kind of, I got people on my email list. I got them kind of trialing the course a little bit. So I did that. And I've also on my course platform, beyond just my Pinterest course, my email course, all that stuff that I offer, that's these big paid courses, I use it to host my little freebies. And so I have a free training. I have one that's called Tips for Creating a Product That Sells. It's a free video training for TPT sellers that they can check out first before they check out my TPT course. I also have a How to Get Started on Pinterest free video training for TPT sellers. Again, they can check that out before they check out my Pinterest course. And it's they can see whether they like me and my teaching style, whether they find my tips helpful. It's a really good little practice run as well, just kind of get people to go, do I like this course creator? Would I want to buy something from them? And a great lead magnet too. But yeah, so I offer those on Thinkific, it's hosted on there. It's more just a one-off lesson, but a great thing to do. So yeah, you can use Thinkific for those. Put a link in the show notes. There's a 14-day free trial, so you could always have a look at it and see if it's for you, or maybe another course platform. Really a great place to host that little intro offer that you're going to probably do before you make the big proper course. I will put some links in the show notes too to things I mentioned in this episode. I might just put a link to my generic course page that I list all my courses, and I'll put a link to those 2 free trainings I mentioned in case you're listening and you're hey, I'm actually kind of interested in that Pinterest thing you mentioned. Where is it? I'll put links to that just to help you out in case, because I don't like to mention things and then not actually let you access them. It might be really helpful to you. Anyway, I hope this has helped, and I will see you in the next episode so we can keep talking about course creation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Terrific Teacherpreneur. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Come back for more actionable tips and helpful wisdom in the next episode with your host, Alex. Until then.